Remember that clip that recently got leaked from Kyrie Irving's live stream? Yeah, this one.
You sure this ain't live? Because I'm tired of pretending LeBron isn't an evil man.
Well, hold on to your seats because LeBron has finally responded. And oh man, he did not hold back.
I'm done being portrayed as the villain.
Here's where it gets wild. Apparently, that fallout that happened between them after that Cleveland era. Yeah, it wasn't entirely LeBron's fault. There's a lot more darkness behind the scenes than you ever imagined. Like the kind of stuff that makes you rethink every highlight reel and legendary moment you thought you knew. And wait for this. The story takes a sharp turn into some serious controversy, because LeBron also revealed how Kyrie got tangled up in a viral post that spread deeply offensive messages. And honestly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. By the end of this, you're going to question everything you thought you knew about Kyrie Irving, LeBron, and that whole Cleveland era. You might think a clip like that got leaked randomly, but if you followed Irving for any amount of time, this wasn't shocking. In fact, it was completely predictable. Irving has a history of saying what's on his mind without a filter, and sometimes that filter would have saved him a lot of headaches. The leak didn't just explode because of what he said, it exploded because of who said it. This is a guy who has built a reputation on off-script moments that spiral faster than a crossover from his own handle. Remember the live streams where he just goes off? Fans can never predict whether he'd talk about basketball, philosophy, or suddenly drop some opinion on something nobody asked for. And then there's social media. Irving's posts often land without clarification. Sometimes it's a quote, sometimes a clip, sometimes a cryptic line. And the problem isn't just that people see it, it's that it escalates. A simple post can turn into a full-blown story in 24 hours, and usually, he's nowhere to be found when it's time to clarify. There's also a pattern of statements that don't resolve anything. Instead of smoothing over tension, he often amplifies it. He'll say something off the cuff, then let the internet explode, and only later, if at all, offer any sort of context or apology. Oh, and this caused such a huge problem in the NBA, one we're going to talk about very soon. But when that leaked LeBron is evil clip went viral, it wasn't some miraculous revelation. This was exactly what you'd expect if you knew him. But here's the thing. Up until now, if we're being honest, LeBron had stayed mostly quiet through all the noise. You know when someone's been telling a story about you for years, and it's been one-sided? That's where LeBron has been. For a decade, he'd been letting the narrative play out while Irving's side slowly shaped how fans remembered that Cleveland era. But after that leaked clip, something shifted. LeBron didn't just want to defend himself quietly anymore. He wanted the world to hear his side, and that's why he said in that interview that he was done being painted like a villain. What makes this moment different is that LeBron isn't necessarily attacking Irving. This is just him saying he won't sit back while his silence is treated as guilt. Before this, he tolerated the misrepresentation because he thought it served the bigger picture. He let Irving's narrative breathe, absorb, and dominate for years. But now, with the way this is going, it's obvious he's done. He's done with silence being read as weakness. He's done with being framed as the bad guy in someone else's story. When he was asked about the whole situation in a recent interview, here's what he had to say.
No, it's an everyday thing. No, it's not behind me. It's an everyday thing. It's something that's been lingering for the last few years.
So, after LeBron finally broke his silence and said he was done being painted as the villain, he didn't just stop there. See, everyone already knows how weirdly intense LeBron can be on the court. And honestly, yeah, it could be a bit annoying. But after hearing his explanation, I think it's understandable, because he admitted that, yeah, he was controlling. But it wasn't because he was trying to be a boss, even though we all know that was part of it. I mean, it's LeBron after all. But in his words, he was acting exactly the way a guy who's trying to win every game was supposed to act. He demanded structure, he demanded discipline, and he demanded execution. But here's the thing. Being controlling doesn't automatically make you evil. LeBron made it crystal clear that his leadership wasn't manipulation, and holding people accountable wasn't abuse. He wasn't trying to boss Irving around personally. He was trying to push him to be the best version of himself and holding him to the same standards every elite player on that team had to live by.
I mean, I played with Kyrie for 3 seasons. The whole time while I was there, I only wanted to see him be an MVP of our league. I only cared about his success.
And let's be honest, with talent like Irving's, you can't just sit back and hope people won't kick you out of your spot if they want it badly enough. You have to shake things up, challenge it, and push it to the edge, but that intensity got twisted into being controlling, when really, it was just someone refusing to let talent waste away. So yeah, He controlled. But in the end, it wasn't cruelty. It wasn't manipulation. It was leadership, and finally, after all those years of being misrepresented, LeBron made sure everyone knew that. Which is why the next moment cuts even deeper. Because if you really want to understand why it was so easy for LeBron to react the way he did recently, we have to rewind to the summer of 2017. That's where the trust officially snapped. After the Cavs' insane run to the NBA Finals in 2017, their third straight finals, everything seemed to be in place for another title push. They had history, and most importantly, continuity between two of the best players on the planet. But then, out of what felt like nowhere to everyone outside the locker room, Irving requested a trade. He wanted out of Cleveland. He wanted a fresh start, but he didn't inform LeBron. And that part hit hard, because when that news went public, it didn't just shock Cavs fans, it shocked LeBron James too. LeBron found out through reports, just like the media and the rest of us. Back then, Irving tried to explain the reason behind his decision and said he wanted a situation where he could maximize his potential and grow as a leader away from the shadow of being the second star on a LeBron-led team. But there were rumors that his trade demand was already widely known around the Cavs front office well before it hit the news. Some reports later revealed that the Cavs were already exploring trade options for Irving months earlier, around June. This was a period when the owner, Dan Gilbert, was making big decisions behind the scenes. And this was also around this period that the former GM David Griffin left and new GM Kobe Altman took over. LeBron didn't hide his disappointment. According to ESPN, LeBron was devastated when he heard Irving wanted out.
I was a little like damn, and it kind of hurt me a little bit.
He'd envisioned another title run, another push, another shot at circling the Warriors, and suddenly the guy who hit the biggest shot in Cavs history, that iconic Game 7 three-pointer in 2016, was already mentally checking out. Behind the scenes, LeBron even got on the phone with the general manager, Kobe Altman, on August 22, 2017, the very day the trade was being finalized, and told him that Cleveland shouldn't move Irving. Minutes after that call ended, the deal was confirmed. Cleveland sent Irving to the Boston Celtics for Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, Ante Zizic, and a Nets first-round pick. LeBron later said that the team's decision felt like the beginning of the end for that Cavaliers dynasty, and he wasn't talking about just missing out on winning another ring. He was talking about the trust and brotherhood that suddenly wasn't there anymore. And make no mistake, it wasn't all one-sided. Irving later clarified that he didn't leave only because he didn't like LeBron. He said it was also because he just wanted to be the guy, the leader, and the primary voice of a franchise. But regardless of how he framed it, that move sent a message, and to a superstar like LeBron, that message translated into betrayal. And that quiet feeling of being blindsided didn't just vanish. It carried forward into later moments and shaped how LeBron reacted when Irving's actions crossed lines that couldn't be ignored, because things could never go back to exactly the way they were. Look, if you've been following Irving for a while, you already know this isn't the first time he's stirred up some chaos. Every time he drops a controversial post or makes a wild move, someone has to deal with the fallout. And for years, that someone has often been LeBron. So when this latest clip leaked, it wasn't just drama, it was the latest chapter in a pattern. Remember at the beginning of this video where I mentioned how Irving would sometimes say something off the cuff, let the internet explode, and not offer an apology? Well, that was exactly what happened in late October and early November of 2022, when Irving was with the Brooklyn Nets. On October 27, 2022, Irving shared a link on social media to a documentary. Yeah, this documentary. The film had already sparked huge backlash for spreading, for lack of a better way of expressing it, harmful and offensive claims about Jewish people. I'm sure you know what I mean by that. And these harmful claims included denying the Holocaust and wild theories about who controls media and finance. And this wasn't some insider-only knowledge, it was public. Major Jewish organizations, historians, and civil rights groups had been flagging that content for years. And almost immediately, the backlash hit. Fans, reporters, and Jewish advocacy groups called Irving out. The Anti-Defamation League, led by CEO Jonathan Greenblatt, publicly condemned the post and called for accountability. The Nets front office released statements distancing themselves from the content, and the NBA reacted quietly at first but eventually started monitoring the situation. Here's where things escalated. When Irving was asked directly by reporters if he condemned that documentary, and what it represents, he didn't condemn it. Not at first. Instead, he said this.
Another human being. I can post whatever I want, so say that and shut it down and move on to the next question.
But Kyrie, you have to understand that
I don't have to understand anything from you.
But it's not me.
And every time he avoided a clear answer, the story grew bigger. What could have been a quick clarification quickly turned into a full-blown league crisis. By November 3rd, 2022, the Brooklyn Nets had seen enough. General manager Sean Marks and the owner announced that Irving was suspended for at least 5 games without pay.
The Nets suspended Kyrie Irving at least 5 games, 1 week after he promoted, a couple hours after he continued to promote an anti-Semitic documentary.
They also laid out 6 specific conditions Irving would have to meet before returning, including issuing a sincere apology, completing sensitivity training, meeting with Jewish leaders, and demonstrating accountability. That alone tells you how serious this was. But that was not all. Then came the business fallout. Nike, which had partnered with Irving since 2014 and built one of the most successful signature shoe lines in basketball, pulled the plug on him. On November 4th, 2022, Nike officially suspended its relationship with Irving and canceled the release of the Irving 8.
Nike announcing today that it has mutually ended its relationship with Brooklyn Nets guard Kyrie Irving.
Within weeks, the partnership was over entirely. This wasn't a slap on the wrist. This was a global brand saying, "We're done." Eventually, Irving did post an apology on Instagram. That came on November 19th, 2022, weeks after the initial post. In it, he said he took responsibility for the hurt caused and claimed he did not intend to promote anti-Semitism. But by that point, the damage was already done. The delay mattered. The hesitation mattered. And to even make matters worse, many fans noticed that the apology post was later deleted, which only added more doubts to the situation and whether the apology was intentional or not.
As a side note that I think is fair to share and not really out there, I don't think, he, at some point in the somewhat recent history, deleted the Instagram post where he apologized.
Now here's where LeBron came in. Because while Irving was dodging questions and organizations were scrambling, LeBron James was being asked about it everywhere. Remember, this wasn't just any player speaking up. This was the most influential player in the league, and someone forever linked to Irving because of Cleveland. But honestly, LeBron didn't insult Irving or clown him. He did something far more consequential. On November 5th, 2022, LeBron spoke publicly and said that Irving's actions had caused some harm to a lot of people. He said anti-Semitism was wrong, and that hate has no place in sports or society. And he made it clear that sharing content like that was dangerous, especially when you have a massive platform.
I can tell you this, it's simple. Me personally, I don't condone any hate.
That might sound simple, but in context, it was huge. Because up until that moment, LeBron had spent years avoiding any sort of criticism towards Irving. But here, LeBron didn't protect him. He drew a moral boundary and let Irving stand on the other side of it. And that moment marked a shift, because this was the first time LeBron publicly separated himself from Irving's behavior and stopped carrying the weight of Irving's chaos on his own shoulders. And after that moment, this situation became a lot more personal. And if you really track Irving's behavior after that point, you can literally see the whole situation turning into resentment in real time. After the Nets' suspension was announced on November 3rd, 2022, Irving didn't respond like someone who felt he had crossed a line. He responded like someone who felt wronged.
It seems like Adam Silver wanted to hear the word "I apologize," or in your mind, you said, "I didn't mean to cause any harm." Were you apologizing, or did you not apologize?
I didn't mean to cause any harm. I'm not the one that made the documentary.
In the press conferences that followed, he repeatedly framed himself as misunderstood and talked about being targeted by the media. He questioned why people were focusing on intent instead of listening to his explanations. At one point, when asked directly about the post he shared again, he pushed back on the label entirely and challenged reporters instead of answering them. That matters, because accountability usually sounds like ownership. This sounded like he was trying to stand on his point, and behind the scenes, it got even louder. Multiple reports from ESPN, The Athletic, and writers with the Nets all pointed to the same thing. Irving felt targeted. He felt like the punishment didn't match the crime, at least in his mind, and most importantly, he felt abandoned. That's the word that keeps coming up. Abandoned by the organization, abandoned by the league, and in his mind, abandoned by LeBron. Because here's the part people don't want to admit. Irving didn't just want LeBron to stay quiet. He wanted LeBron to ride with him, to soften the blow, to frame it as a misunderstanding instead of wrongdoing. And LeBron didn't do that. LeBron chose clarity over comfort. From the outside, that looks like leadership, but from Irving's perspective, that felt like betrayal. And once that switch flips in someone's head, everything changes. LeBron stopped being the former teammate who pushed him to be great and became part of the system that judged him. Part of the machine that didn't protect him, and part of the same world Irving already felt was out to get him. By the time Irving completed the Nets' 6-step return process and was reinstated on November 20th, 2022, the damage was already done. Even when he came back and played well, the trust was gone. Nets owner later admitted the relationship was basically broken, and just a few months later, in February 2023, Irving was traded to Dallas. That trade wasn't just a basketball move, it was the end of a fallout that started with resentment. So in Irving's mind, the narrative started changing from Cleveland just being a bad fit to something he escaped. So when you line all of that up, the silence, the boundaries, the resentment, the trade, the trust snapping, you start to realize something important. None of this was ever just about one comment, or one clip, or even one relationship. This wasn't only Irving versus LeBron. This was a pattern that followed Irving everywhere he went. And the place where it showed up the most, the place fans never really get to see, was inside the locker room. This is the part of Irving's story that box scores and highlight reels will never show you. On the court, Irving has always been magic. Teammates, coaches, and even executives, everyone agrees on that. But behind the scenes, across multiple teams, the same issues kept popping up. One of the biggest recurring issues was locker room tension. Former teammates described an environment where people genuinely did not know how to approach Irving. Some days he was engaged, talking, leading conversations, and cracking jokes. Other days, he was distant, cold, and closed off. That unpredictability matters more than fans realize because locker rooms run on rhythm and trust. When players don't know which version of their star teammate is walking in, it creates hesitation. People start second-guessing conversations, coaches start choosing words carefully. That tension doesn't explode all at once, it spreads slowly. Then there was the selective engagement. When Irving arrived with the Celtics in 2017, the expectations were massive. This was supposed to be his team, a young roster with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Terry Rozier, and Marcus Smart, paired with a finals-winning point guard ready to lead. Early on, Irving openly embraced that role. He talked about wanting to be a leader. He even promised fans he planned to re-sign. But behind the scenes, reports later revealed that young players were confused by mixed messaging. Irving would challenge them, then withdraw. He would speak about togetherness, then isolate himself. During the 2018-2019 season, his leadership style became a constant topic internally and externally. And by the end of that season, the Celtics imploded in the playoffs and Irving left in free agency shortly after. Jaylen Brown later admitted that the locker room had multiple voices and that it was hard to establish clarity. Terry Rozier was even more direct after Irving left, saying the team never really knew where they stood. None of them called Irving a bad teammate outright, but the pattern was clear. The leadership energy from him was confusing. And it wasn't just one team. When he moved to Brooklyn, the pattern became impossible to ignore. This wasn't about missing games alone, it was about the uncertainty that came with it. Players didn't know when Irving would speak, when he would engage, or when he would disappear. And that's the key point. Talent was never the issue. Trust was. Every team could handle Irving's skill. What they struggled with was building something stable around him. Chemistry requires consistency. Leadership requires presence. And locker rooms need reliability more than they need brilliance. Now, the weight of leadership was on him, and he could see things from LeBron's point of view, and how difficult it was to maintain that position. Because teams don't just need stars, they need reliability. They need to know who's showing up, how they're showing up, and whether the message today will match the message tomorrow. When teammates aren't sure if their star is mentally locked in or checked out, communication slows down. Trust reduces, and once that happens, the team's rhythm is gone. And that's what makes this so important. It explains why LeBron's demand for structure always felt suffocating to him. Not because LeBron was evil, but because Irving's idea of leadership wasn't the same as LeBron's. When you look back now, it becomes clear why LeBron valued structure so much, why he demanded discipline, why unpredictability drove him crazy. Because he had already seen how fragile championship windows were. When that "LeBron is evil" clip got leaked, a lot of people acted like Irving just dropped some shocking truth. But if you actually look at the history, it's not surprising. It's more like years of tension finally getting exposed. I mean, look at the timeline yourself. From the controversy with Jewish people in 2022, then right after that, he got suspended, lost his Nike deal, and LeBron publicly distanced himself from him right when people were coming at him from all angles. That sequence of events is enough to build resentment. Add in the 2017 trade drama, where Irving blindsided LeBron. Then there's the locker room stuff. It's a lot of tension layered over years. So when he calls LeBron evil, what's really going on? Is it a real revelation? Or is it just him venting about all the times he felt misunderstood or unsupported? That's why that clip hits differently now, because it's less of him exposing a secret and more of him projecting old frustrations. At the end of the day, it's on you. Who do you believe? Was LeBron right to draw that line, or was Kyrie right for keeping his distance?